Good evening. Welcome to the public hearing for proposed local law XXX 2025 at 7:25. It's February 25th. We're going to amend the Chapter 220 zoning and add terms and provisions relating to short-term rentals as attached. The only change in this law that was passed to this one tonight that we're doing this public hearing is to have it, the last one had it being managed, or the registration process to be managed by the clerk's office, and instead it should be managed by our building and codes office. The applications, the registration, and the follow-up will just be handled into our building and codes office, as they do with other property registrations and follow-up. So it seemed to make sense. We wanted to pass the law, and it has been passed and sent to the state. There are no changes, other changes to the law. It's just a matter of who's going to follow up and what department is going to be following up. It's the only change. I don't see anybody here from the public that wants to comment. Dan, unless you do, I apologize. I want to assume that you didn't. But Peter, you let us know if somebody joins us online and has any questions, and if not, we will sit quietly for a few minutes, 4 more minutes. Thank you. No report. Good. Great. That's good.
Mayor, you might fight with rearrange with Mary here.
I saw that.
She's got like
So that
a.
Yeah.
no,
I saw it on
no.
Facebook. Yeah. Did you see the moose they rescued?
Yeah.
That went through the week?
How much is it for a full-size family? It's actually 1,500 pounds.
A little less, but I have mine, my husband's was 16 pounds. My horse is 15 years.
I'm doing great.
They say people that hit those with cars are just close.
Right. And then my mini was
Yeah. No. Everybody you talk is sick.
Yeah, my brother Dan's having the flu. Several people.
No, it's like Florida.
I did, I was doing backpack the other day, and I did Abraham Lincoln School, and they said that they had considered the week before vacation to close because they had so many kids.
Wow, good.
Yeah. Shut school.
Big flu year then, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't-
We know what it is. In fact, my grandkids go through it, so they take the kids to pediatrician. They test them for COVID, for RSV, for flu, because there's all of them.
Oh, okay.
Well, and my hairdresser was telling me that even if they get full vaccine.
We're just open the public hearing.
You might get a mild, yeah, as they told me.
We're set. Great. We've waited the time for the public hearing, so I'd now like to ask for a motion to close this public hearing on local law XXX 2025 and to amend Chapter 220 zoning and added provisions. We have a motion to close. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So now we'd like to welcome the Glens Falls Common Council meeting. It's Tuesday, February 25th. It's now 7:30 and time for a regular session. Tonight we have the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Donahue, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we have the city and deputy clerk, the city clerk, to report and speak to us about revising the city's events contracts. Meg?
Come on down.
It's me, it's all here. Good evening, Mayor and Common Council. For the record, Megan Nolan, City Clerk. I am the record, so Emily Neal, Deputy City Clerk. And we are here to talk to you about the contracts that the city currently has with event holders. We have 3 of them. Well, we have 4 contracts with 3 different organizers. And last year, we, in the clerk's office, received, I would say, quite a few complaints about the contracts with vendors who are not participating with those organizers because currently under the contracts, the mobile food vendors are not required to pay for a mobile food license. They're covered under the contract, and the organizer pays a fee to the city directly. So we've been meeting over the last couple of weeks to discuss a possible solution to that. And the Deputy City Clerk, Emily, came up with a wonderful idea. Wow.
It's a wonderful
idea.
It is.
We think it's a wonderful idea. Everyone that came into our office, our biggest complaint was the price for mobile food licenses. Currently, the prices are $75 for a weekly license, $500 for seasonal, and $700 for annual. And so that's a little steep for most businesses. So our proposal is to have everyone across the board, regardless of what events people are vending for, to pay one fee to remove the contracts with the city and the event organizers. This way it's kind of levels the playing field for everyone, all organizations, all vendors. And we were looking, I passed out the proposed fee schedule earlier. We're looking to change the current fees from $700 for an annual fee to $100. And the other option that we discussed being not everybody is going to vend all year long was the weekly fee being $25 instead of the $75.
And the big reason for this too is the way, we believe the way the code is written right now, and back when it was written in this chapter of the code, it was really discouraged to have mobile food vendors and vending throughout the city, just based on the requirements and especially really the fees. But obviously, as you know now, especially post pandemic, that outdoor events, outside dining, anything like that really has increased heavily. So we definitely want to encourage our events, and we know that it's, like I said, it is very steep to ask for an annual license for $700, especially if it's just they're small businesses. But also, the biggest thing for us is also just liability for the city and making sure Department of Health, and obviously with that comes, legwork on our end from background checks, which I do think are very important to have. but also, you know, from the clerk side of just, you know, doing our due diligence to getting all the paperwork and, you know, making sure the common council approves it as is in code. But we definitely want to support these events, but I think even with some of these contracts that we currently have, really it's really not the event holder's responsibility. It's really the vendors. And we think this just opens it up to these vendors as well to just not have, well, did I get permitted for this event or that event or this or that, you know, and then certain events they don't need a permit, certain events they do need a permit, and it just kind of takes all of that confusion out. And consistency is key. So I think just for us, for the vendors, for the event holders, for everyone, being able to offer this on an annual basis at this price, and especially still offering the one-time event fee, just because we do have those one-offs where maybe they do come from out of town, maybe for one event a year or whatever the case may be. We want to be able to offer that at a reasonable price. But I think it's important to support these events, but also make sure on our end, on the city's end, we're covered. So, if you have any questions, we can answer any questions. Yeah.
If I could, so to just go to the first one that's here, that basically says mobile unit under annual fees is going from $700 to $100.
Yes.
How many of those do we have out right now? Do we put out?
I can count on one hand how many we
So
have.
there's not a lot.
No.
So the loss of revenue isn't great.
No, there wouldn't be a loss of revenue. I think if anything, there would be an exceptional gain of revenue here because it would just encourage more vendors to be permitted versus what we're getting now.
Because previously, they might go to an event, but they fell under the contract of the event holder. And they didn't have to have a mobile food
Correct.
license.
Okay.
This way, they're all going to have a mobile food license, and the event person will no longer have the contract. Is
And
that-
yes, and with that, there was also other events with these same vendors that are vending under that umbrella, but they're also vending at other events without getting permits because they don't think they need one because of, you know, so it's just very confusing. So we have events that they're not getting permits for that they should be getting permits for. So that's where the confusion sets in.
I have a question or two. So you mentioned Department of Health. Do they have an attestation or do they have to prove that?
They have to give us their Department of Health certification.
Okay.
And that they receive that from the Glens Falls District Office. They have to get it from our Glens Falls District Office.
So similarly, there's some fire code things with certain things too.
Yes.
So they would have to have that as well as a precondition of this, or they would have to.
They would have to be
They'd have
open
to
to
pass
inspection.
something.
Yep, absolutely. Because this also doesn't just cover mobile food vendors that have a truck. This is any mobile food or beverage. So even if someone's setting up a table and, you know, selling their frozen, you know, lemonade, slushies, whatever the case may be at certain events, they still fall under this permit. However, obviously when it comes to fire inspections and such, that only falls under actual trucks, you know, with propane and things like that.
So for things, I know currently we have events that we have some selling out on the sidewalks and stuff like that. So like, you know, I mean special events like and you know, like Wing Fest and those ones. So would they be able to vend at other times, or are there still things in saying you can't do that except for special times?
So in the code, there are parameters as far as vending at certain times, certain places, more so just so they can't set up shop in front of a restaurant, you know, all day long, every day. So really, as long as they're following those parameters, they are allowed to vend whenever. It's just as long as they're following what those parameters are that are in code.
And
So it would
very
open up
similar-
their ability to vend more if they wanted to in the city.
That's good.
And very similarly, you don't make a restaurant because it's only for non-brick and mortar, so you would not have asked,
Correct.
and nor would you now ask a guy who's got a restaurant if he wants to sell something
Right.
at
Right.
Wingfest. He doesn't need anything he didn't before, and he still doesn't.
Right. Like Take a Bite is essentially, we're all familiar with,
Yeah.
most of them, if not, I believe all of them are brick and mortars in Glens Falls. So obviously we don't, you know, that wouldn't be something that we would go under the umbrella of a mobile food permit.
How has it gone when you've introduced this new schedule to people that you've talked to?
So honestly, I mean, Larac, all of their vendors get what they're supposed to get from, from us, and they've done great. And as you can imagine, Larac's probably the biggest event in Glens Falls as far as vendors go. So I definitely think that they're receptive. I think a part of it is fee, especially when you come to smaller businesses like selling butters and jams and things like that. I think $75 can be a little hefty for a couple days. But I definitely think that they're willing to do the legwork, and that most people do understand, just from a city perspective and a liability, we don't really want the public consuming just anything. We at least need to make sure that they're certified from Department of Health and those things. So, and their background checks of their salespeople as well, I think is really important too.
We've met with 2 out of 3 of the event holders that
Yes.
have contracts,
Mhm.
and both of the ones that we've met with have been very receptive.
Mhm.
And Amy was setting up a meeting with the 3rd this week, so,
Mhm.
Does this apply to the farmer's market too?
yes.
And have you met with them?
Yes.
And they were
Mhm.
good with it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The only one we haven't met with, I believe, was the collaborative.
Okay.
Mhm.
One of the reasons they might be is because we won't collect $1,000 a year from them. Because at this point, you're saying, look, collaborative, if you want to, instead of you giving us $1,000, let the vendors come and give us $100. They can go to your event, they can go to the farmer's market event, they can go to Eric Unkoff's, they can go to any event. And that's between you and them, you charge them what you want,
Mhm.
but we're not gonna ask you for $1,000. And so I think that everybody seems so far to be,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I appreciate you doing the legwork to
Yeah.
come up with a, idea, because it has been something that's been
It's-
an
yeah.
issue for the past few years.
Absolutely.
So,
And I think it just keeps it clean
yeah.
and really, again, agreements between us, and it really should be us and the vendors, because that's what it comes down to, so.
The only other comment I have is our code does require a permit for peddlers under section 156, and the fee is $200.
Mhm.
And so maybe we want to take a look at that too,
Mhm.
because the person selling soap paying $200
Mhm.
next to the person who's selling hamburgers.
Popcorns, right, or big-
popcorn.
yeah, yeah.
It
Mhm.
doesn't seem fair to
Mhm.
me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it should all be the same, like
Mhm.
$100.
Yep. Yeah, we can definitely look at that, and,
We'd kind of forgotten about the peddlers, but that would answer the
Yeah.
question that the farmer's market had too.
Mhm.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they,
Yep.
Some of them are selling soap at the farmer's market.
Yeah.
They should have the
they
same
could just pay
permit.
$100 for
Right.
peddlers.
But we could include that,
Yeah.
peddler, modify the code.
Yeah.
And you're removing all
Mhm.
the
The
fee
fees.
schedule.
well, ideally, that would be the goal, is to eventually change it in code and just have it so it's an approved fee schedule by the common council, once we can get to that point. But obviously, with the time of year that we have right now, ideally, I think we'd like to have the council be okay with amending these fees temporarily, and then once we can take a look at that chapter and, address everything that needs to be addressed in there, and then, do local law and put it in front of the common council.
Yeah, we do have some events coming up in March, so that was the
Yeah.
Yeah.
concern.
And then will we put this fee schedule in an easy-to-find place on the website? Like, if you want to vend in the city,
Yep.
here's
Yeah.
the information you need.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yep.
okay.
And it would state, I'm sure, in code that, the clerk's office holds the fee schedule, so then, they would know where to
And the
go.
permits are through your office anyway.
Yep, absolutely.
And then is there any enforcement? I think our code does talk about enforcement. Is there going to be enforcement to monitor? Like when an event happens, are you going to have someone go around and make sure? Are they gonna display their permit where it can be seen?
They're required to display their permit where it can be seen. As far as enforcement goes, it's in the code, it's our health officer, but it's also along with law enforcement. So essentially, if there were events that we did want to have some kind of enforcement, if we did want to have maybe someone on the beat or on patrol just walk through and just, really, as long as the permits are seen, then there's no issue.
They're printed on brightly colored paper
Yes,
every year, they
right.
change,
We
so it
change
should
them
be
every
very
year.
easy for someone to
Yes.
walk through and just say, yes, that would,
Yeah.
And
Yep,
you'll have a full list of all the people, so
Yeah.
Mhm.
once they come for the $100.
Right.
If they're part of the farmer's market, then they won't have that barrier of joining, say,
right.
and that's where the complaints came, right? Like,
Mhm.
the
It's confusion.
Vegan Fest
Yeah.
wasn't part of the collaborative, so
Mhm.
it seemed like we were singling them out.
Right.
When we weren't, it's just
Right.
that they weren't part of the, under
Right.
that contract.
Yes.
And so now everybody
Mhm.
give you $100, they can go to any events, and it's
Mhm.
between the collaborative or the t-shirt
Mhm.
factory or them to charge whatever they're gonna,
Mhm.
but we're out of it, they're on
Right.
the list, and they're great.
And specifically with Vegan Fest too, which is a good example for the one time, the 1 week fee, just because with that, you know, they may only come up here the one time out of the year, so instead of having to maybe pay the 100, they would only pay the 25, just because, you know, nothing. I don't know how often the certain vegan companies come up from Albany and places like that, so.
So explain to me what happens next. So we're making a change in our existing schedule.
Mhm.
Do you have to publish that?
yeah, we'll have to eventually be a local law. I think, I'm gonna ask Karen, can the council approve a fee schedule, say at the next meeting, pending a local law to amend these in the code?
And the
then
fees
it
are
would
going
be
down,
just like any
so
other
that's
local
a
law,
lot
we'll
more.
have to do the public hearing and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And process-wise, we would be doing the same exact thing we're already doing. It's just more so taking out the confusion of certain events don't need it, certain events do, it's, all of that's gone, everybody would need it.
I just knew you said that there was some events in March, so whatever we've got to do has got to happen.
Right.
Mhm.
Anything else?
Will you let us know,
That's a good
if the third participant
Mhm.
that you're meeting with, if they have great concerns, unlike the first two that you met with, would you let us know ahead of time?
Mhm.
If they
Absolutely.
Yeah,
don't
we'll
have
email.
great concerns,
Mhm.
then maybe you put it on that, the amended thing, and
Mhm.
we can have it on next council meeting. Is that okay? And meanwhile, you continue to process those, we don't want to get in the way of people
Right.
having it, right? Because
Right.
we're not having a contract yet.
Mhm.
Let's make sure that whoever's planning an event in March can continue to have it.
We told Eric that today, that we'll do whatever we can to make sure his event is a success.
Was that the one you were talking about?
Yeah, today,
Mhm.
so. Is that it for that? The only other thing I have is the mayor sent me all of your nominations for the ethics board today. And I will send those along to Chip, also for the March common council meeting for your consideration. But that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our committee reports, Councilman Donahue. Committee reports? None? Councilman Landry.
Thank you, Mayor. Personnel and Labor Committee continues to meet to discuss options for health insurance for our employees and retirees. We're moving forward with that. I'm just glad that we're doing this now because we've always waited in the past to think about this in August, and then it would really complicate the budget process. So we've been having some productive meetings, and I think we'll have more to talk about maybe in the next 30 days or so.
Thank you. Committee reports, Councilwoman Conlon.
Building and codes will next meet on March 4th at 5 p.m.
Thank you. Councilman Lappel. Committee reports?
The technology committee will meet on March 3rd at 4:30.
Thank you. Voice vote. One is a resolution to approve the minutes of the February 11th, 2025.
It's March 4th, too. Yeah, sorry about that. It's March 4th. That's all. Did the math a little wrong.
I didn't catch it anyway.
So the tech committee is when?
March, when's, the tech committee is March 4th?
Yes, March 4th at 4:30.
Thank you. So one is a resolution to approve the minutes of the February 11th, 2025 regular meeting of Glens Falls Common Council. Two is a resolution to accept the building and code sidewalk, snow and ice violation report. Do we have a motion for a voice vote?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Under roll call vote, is there any items that the council would like to pull for discussion?
I just wanted to talk about 10 a little bit.
Sure. Any others? Under roll call vote, we got number 3 is a resolution to increase revenue code A009999-1589 miscellaneous public safety income by $1,841.80 and increase A23120-1100 police overtime by $1,841.80 for police presence at the Cage Wars recently held at the Coolidge Cheering Arena. 4 is a resolution to decrease revenue code A009999-3098 by $303.40 and increase A23126-4479 seized assets Glens Falls PD by $303.40. 5 is a resolution authorizing the community development annual payments in the amount of $6,106 to pay for program delivery and program administration costs to consultants for the CDBG program to reimburse expenses in not-for-profit program year 2024 agreement. 6 is a resolution to increase A009999-4089 ARPA by $227,250.16 and increase G78130-4479 other contracted services by $227,250.16 to aid in funding repairs of water sewer plant electrical switchgear. 7 is a resolution approving a 4-year memorandum of agreement between the CSEA Local 1000 AFSCME AFL-CIO and the City of Glens Falls for the term of January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028 with the terms as outlined. 8 is a resolution to transfer $1,494 is that resolution to transfer in 93 cents? Maybe they just clicked an extra 3 there. From Smart Cities Grant JU 56989-2000 equipment to account JU 56989-4478 other contracted services for payment of consulting services. 9 is a resolution to adopt local law XX-2025 for Chapter 220-40 zoning of the City of Glens Falls, changing the permit process for short-term rentals based upon the recommendations of the Building and Codes Committee. This local law shall take effect upon the filing of the Office of the Secretary of State of New York. 10 is pulled. 11 is a resolution to pull an outside dining renewal. Resolution to approve an outside dining renewal number 1-2025 for Pharmacy Resto Bar, 18-22 Ridge Street, Glens Falls, for the placement of chairs and tables in front of the business for a period from June 1st, 2025 through May 31st, 2026 in compliance with PROAG regulations for Pharmacy Resto Bar, and to place tables in the alleyway with the understanding that all tables and chairs must be removed before the restaurant closes, and that any vehicle parking in the alleyway does not exceed 10 minutes for loading and unloading. 12 is a resolution to approve the warrant. Do we have a motion for a roll call vote?
So moved.
This is second.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Donahue?
Yes.
Councilman Landy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Palmer?
Yes.
And Councilman Lapple?
Yes.
Thank you. And 10 is a resolution to decrease A11210-1000 personnel by $5,127.98 and increase A56410-4479 other contracted services by $5,127.98 to pay for the tent and equipment rentals for the Adirondack Holiday Festival held December 2024. And this falls in the budget of 2024. Ben?
So this was from, the time of this event was December 6th.
That's correct.
Why are we getting this now?
It's just like all the other bills that are coming at the end of the year, Ben. It comes and we put it in payment. It'll happen. Mark said you should go down and talk to him. We had in the last council
I
meeting.
didn't actually see him saying I should go down and talk to him.
Oh.
He did respond to something saying, I understand your concern, but I just want to get a little bit more. And I think there also may be other other expenses for this event that aren't listed here.
So you should go and speak to the controller, and he'll show you where all the expenses are for any expense there is. You see the receipts that are there. It says it was dated in December. It didn't come to us, City Hall. I think it was sent actually to the collaborative by accident. When we met with the collaborative, Amy and I met with Nancy and Cam Cardinelli, who was running the event. We offered to help them cover some of those costs. They agreed. Then I think A1 Tent is the tent company that they use for their events. That portion was supposed to come to us. It wasn't clear whether we would get that from the collaborative or from A1 Tent Rental. When we got it, and then it goes to Mark. When it goes to Mark, he puts it on the agenda.
It did say it was like past due the end of December,
Yeah,
so
again,
I think the timing seems.
So again, Mark can answer that. He puts them on. It has nothing to do with, it has to do with that. You're gonna see bills for all of 2024. There were several in the last 2 council meetings, and there probably will be in the next couple until Mark finishes his end of year bills. So
If
they're
this
all
is
coming out.
going to be now that we're going to be approving city spending on things that are sourced from outside of what has previously been, you don't have a voice in this, then I'm all for it. But in the past, I have heard from you that the council doesn't have a voice in approving things when you've gotten funds from outside of the tax structure. So you said previously that I got funds from the county, so I can do what I want with it.
I don't remember saying that, but if I did, I don't know.
So I
don't know.
I just want to make sure that we put these things, that when we get bills in, that we pay them on time and not late. And you're saying that there's a reason for that, and I'll follow up with Mark.
Great.
And just to make clear, anytime that the city is spending anything, if the mayor's office is spending anything, the council should be approving those expenditures.
Every expenditure goes in, that either goes in the warrant or a manual check payment. And anytime it's moved from one budget that you approve to another, those lines come in front of you. There's never an exception. But you have asked questions similar to that. And I'm telling you that his response, I saw what it was, it's great. You should go and ask him. And if that doesn't answer your questions and you want to bring it to the council, if that doesn't answer your question satisfactorily, I'll understand, or we'll have a discussion about it. Fair enough?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So 10 is a resolution to decrease A 11210-1000 personnel by $5,127.98, and increase A 56410-4479 by $5,127.98 to pay for tent and equipment rentals for the Adirondack Holiday Festival held in December 2024. Do we have a motion for a
Can I
roll?
ask just one more question?
Sure.
It's my understanding that this will be refunded by the county from bed tax, occupancy tax monies.
This particular money, I believe, was given to us by the OCTEX, but again, you can ask Mark for
Yeah.
sure. I don't want to speak
Okay,
out of
that's-
turn.
That's my
So-
understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's already been, just so you know, in that case, because different tranches of OCTEX come in different ways.
Sure.
My belief is this 20,000 that we found out in June has already come in. But again, Mark could confirm for sure, just so you're aware. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Do we have a motion for a roll call vote for number 10?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Donahue?
Yes.
Councilman Landry?
Yes.
Councilwoman Palmer?
Yes.
And Councilman Wetton?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Old business, Councilman Donahue.
Nothing this time. Just trying to get rid of snow, I mean, that's about
Absolutely.
it. Or ice, if you
Nice. Ice left over. Old business, Councilman Landry.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilman Donahue. Snow, ice, and sidewalks has been talked about every winter that I've been on this council. It's a problem in the city. It's an old problem with new issues. We got climate change that makes it different. We got how we plow our streets that makes it different. We get ice on top of snow on top of ice, which is the result of climate change. There's issues caused by how we install ADA compliant sidewalks. That needs to be looked at before we put any more in. We need to figure out a way that we can clear the ADA ramps at the end of the block. We need to get fire hydrants cleared as part of a regular process in the city, not when it's an emergency. We got to figure out a way to get commercial properties to take care of. I don't understand a retailer of any sort whatsoever who doesn't shovel the sidewalk. I really don't get that. And I just had a thought about it the other day. They come in and they ask for a permit so they can put dining tables, and they want to put it on every square inch of sidewalk in front of their property. But when you say to them, well, then you got to shovel every square inch of the sidewalk in front of your property, is where we end up in trouble. So maybe that's something that we can do. Code enforcement and code compliance. You know, maybe the process is so slow that you issue somebody a violation code and follow it up and decide you're going to maybe even take them to court, which I don't know if you would on such a small issue. But if you did, it's like it'll be summertime before you even get to it. So I think that I'm not here tonight with any ideas or way out to do this or that, but I really think this needs to be talked about. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Palmer, old business.
In terms of the storm that we recently had, and as you mentioned, it was tough because we got the snow and then it was ice over the snow. I did have several calls from people, just different issues going on. Some people that their street was kind of flooded and their cars were stuck to the street and all of these things. And I contacted Tom Gerard and at one point Bill Norton, and they were very responsive and got crews out there very quickly. So I appreciate that. I know that they were working really hard, and it was a lot of calls to them, as I imagine most of us got calls. So I wanted to thank them for that. Also for old business, I had a call recently from a constituent who said, I'm looking on your website and I'm just trying to find out the setbacks for a structure I want to build and I can't find it. And I told them, it's in the code, the city code, and I had asked our building and codes department, do we have that information on the building and codes page anywhere? He said, no, it's in the city code. And I think I know that, but I wonder if you're the average person, if you know that. I think you just want to go on the city website and find information. So I asked PJ if we could maybe think about putting a fact sheet or something, just saying, here are some answers to common questions. Where do I find information about this? And then a link to the city code or something. So that if people are trying to comply and they're not experts or professional contractors, they know where to find the information. So I'd like to see us do that.
Are you thinking to make the fact sheet on the regular city page with then the link to the building and codes, deeper the actual code?
Well, if you go to departments and then you click on building and codes, there's the fee schedule and permit forms, but nothing to give you information about what the rules are. So I imagine there's got to be some frequent questions that people have who want to do basic construction projects around their house. And PJ agreed. He said that they thought that was a good idea and that they would like to work on that. So just anything we can do to make information easy to find.
Right.
Yeah.
This is something also that we were talking with our IT vendor about having bots or agents that could answer questions regarding the code. So if you have a question about the code, that it could just kind of respond to you. It trains on what the code is.
Absolutely.
So we're supposed to get a demo of that somewhere in the next month or two. So we'll be
Do you know
reporting
if that's
that.
an add-on to the?
That would be an
software
existing.
we have?
That would be an existing use of software.
Okay, great, fantastic. Awesome. Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's
Old business, Councilman.
Just to follow up on the snow removal and sidewalks conversation we've been having, I just wanted to share with the rest of the city email we got from the Director of Community Relations with SAIL about the snow removal. And I'm just going to read it in for the record. I hope this email finds you well. I am reaching out on behalf of SAIL regarding the ongoing issue of snow removal and its impact on accessibility in our community. Every winter, individuals with disabilities, older adults, and other residents face serious challenges due to uncleared sidewalks, especially in front of businesses and vacant properties that fail to meet their obligations. Attached is there's a letter outlining their concerns and the need for stricter enforcement of snow removal regulations. We urge the city to take stronger action in holding property owners accountable to ensure that everyone can navigate Glens Falls safely regardless of ability. This past storm, with it being snow, then rain, then I had a lot of complaints about people who were just upset, just plain upset. The plow came in after midnight and pushed water and ice all over my sidewalk, and it's in worse case shape now than it was. Well, I'm just saying that this was, and everybody, kind of knows this, especially on some roads where, they get down to the surface of the road quickly. It's even more of an issue than some of the ones that are kind of a snowpack for a while because of that rainwater and runoff. There's nothing, I don't have a magic wand that I can wave about it either. But that is a question too.
Because
if they're going 30 miles an hour, which is the top speed limit in Glens Falls, then the water and the ice isn't going to go up into somebody's house.
our Lord Street house is near the street,
Yeah.
and they hit the steps. So
So do
I'd
we
love to
have
talk to Tom on that.
do we have telemetry on the trucks? Does anybody know?
No, we don't. I don't.
Because county does, I'm pretty sure. So that might be something that we investigate. There also might be things about brining. I think every other community in this county does brining.
Yeah.
Glens Falls is not doing it. We've had opportunities for grants for that. So, Bob, you were saying you couldn't think of things. I can think of a few things, but I think it's a good conversation to have.
I'll tell you one of the things, because I experienced it, and before we do sidewalks again, we need to talk about this. So, not in front of my house, but on Sagamore Street near Jackson Heights School, it was great. They put in the ADA compliant sidewalks, they put the ramps at both ends, but when they installed the sidewalk, because it had to be wider, they moved the sidewalk more towards the curbing. So now instead of having 30 inches that you might be able to put snow on, you only have 18 inches that you can put snow on.
There's a
And
lot of
even-
places that don't have 18 inches.
Well, they don't even have that, but I guess, and I don't disagree with that.
Or 3 inches.
But I think before, as we move forward, I don't know whether, it could be just an issue of you have to get easements if you go the other directions towards the household. I think, Karen, you're saying, no, that's great. But we should make sure that when the engineering is being done on these sidewalks, that they don't narrow that. I know that in other parts of town it doesn't do that. But you're right, and then you couple that with speed, and I actually saw, because I watched them come by, and they weren't speeding, but they were moving pretty good. They not only threw it on the sidewalk, they threw it up into the front lawn.
Yeah.
And then once that stuff freezes, you can
Well,
go.
when people have gardens and things out front, and the salt is not good for the garden.
Right. We need to talk about this, and
Yeah.
we need to talk about it. It isn't gonna help us this year.
Yeah.
We're on our way out of winter, but before next winter,
Yeah, I
we do
agree.
need to talk about this, because I'll just give you one statistic. When I left the housing authority over a 10-year period of time, we had seen a change in our budget from 80% being allocated for snow removal and 10% for ice management, to almost just the opposite, because we don't get the snow. And I don't know, maybe we're equipped with our DPW for snow removal, but we don't have equipment that we need to do the ice part of it, or to open up the ends of the.
Tom did send something around to us today saying that they're doing training with people on the grader And the grader's been there for forever, so it's partially a staffing thing, and yeah, exactly. It's a staffing thing, and it's also, we're doing, you know, more things with less people, and you can, you know, it's like they're going to do the downtown first, and that kind of makes sense. You know, it's just, one of the things that we were talking, that, you know, I've been talking about since I've been on the council is, you know, can we do something with, you know, the bid or with the collaborative to do downtown as something separate from the DPW? You know, everybody kind of kicks something in and gets that taken care of, and then we have the DPW free to do the other places and the roads and everything, and, you know, it's a...
And and you're exactly right. I watched today or yesterday, I think this was yesterday, so I drove down Dix Avenue. And I know that I've got calls from people in my ward that say, especially on the small, narrow streets, just one car. And I do know that we have a piece of equipment that can go in a front end loader with a snow blower on the front of it. You know, I said to the people who called me, well, geez, let me look into that and I'll find out when it's going to happen. I'm sure there's a reason for this, but when I went down Dix Avenue the other day, we had, I think I counted either 6 or 7 pieces of equipment between the grader, the snow blower, and the trucks. And they were taking the snow that we, if I understood what I watched, that we'd already deposited into the parking lot of East Field. We were now loading it on trucks to take it someplace else when the streets, the narrow streets in the city, hadn't been addressed. So that's why I say I think this thing needs a good sized, thorough discussion. The sooner the better before we get to next year. And I appreciate your points.
Thank you. Great.
And just for other old business, I just was wondering if we could get a quick update on 56 Walnut, 26 Leonard, and North Country Ice.
I believe he sent you the one that's the most current. Karen, you might have some updates. We've been in, we're now
56
inspecting
Leonard is
them.
in court. We're still doing weekly inspections.
Okay.
And there's a court date scheduled in March for a trial on the declaration of delinquency. North Country Snow and Ice was brought into court last week. They have an attorney. He asked for an adjournment. It's rescheduled to the March court date. And I don't have any updates on Leonard Street. No new violations have been filed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, I have no old business. New business, Councilman Donahue, right?
Just a little picky old thing here. The controller doesn't give totals. So if I want to get a total of something, I gotta sit there with a calculator and do it. In other words, if you're dealing with a business and they've done like 20 or 30 transactions or more, they're just there, they're not totaled. So.
Yeah, it's a list of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little annoying, that's all.
Yeah, sure. Well, what you can do is I can ask him to do that. I know that he's going to come and see us in March. He's just waiting to finish his end of the books years. He's just hired a new deputy controller, and he's in way over his head. So I know he's coming soon to do that, and I'll make a note now, but ask him about that. But also, I think we want to talk about the entire process.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you. Councilman Landry, new business?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a note before we meet again on March 2nd through 8th is Restaurant Week downtown. We have lots of restaurants. We have great deals that are going on during Restaurant Week. So get the word out and let's get some people down there.
Thank you. New business, Councilwoman Palmer.
Restaurant Week was on my list too, I will take that. So on March 20th from 5:30 to 6:30, Supervisor Turner and I will have another Third Ward Community Forum at the Bell House Inn. These are meetings with our constituents, but anyone's welcome to attend. So again, March 20th, 5:30 to 6:30 at the Bell House Inn. I wanted to just congratulate all of the plethora of amazing young athletes we have in our community. I don't know if everyone's been seeing the news. We took championships for skiing and multiple events, the boys swimming and the girls hockey again. So congratulations to all of those athletes and their families and coaches. I wanted to check in on the tree commission. A a few meetings ago, I had asked about the tree dedication for Enid, and I saw an email chain go through the tree commission about that, and it seemed like they're still not a quorum, so they're not able to make any progress.
There was a quorum at the last meeting, which was a couple days ago, and they all agreed that, at least for the tree planting, that they haven't decided about the location. So there was a quorum, and there is a quorum.
There was a quorum at this last meeting, but there
That's
hadn't been for all the meetings prior.
That's correct.
Okay. And so you said they agreed on the planting. I had requested that it be on Arbor Day. Is
Mhm.
that what they agreed on?
They agreed on that, but they haven't, they're gonna go back and look at potential locations. And that was, they were gonna speak to, a couple of them were gonna speak to the library to see if the library might be interested, or a city park might be a good location for that. But definitely, they sounded good and were happy about that. And also the bid was going out for the plantings for this year.
Okay.
Okay.
If you could just keep me updated so I can let the family know.
Absolutely, he's reached out as well, her son, and it was definitely mentioned to him.
She doesn't have a son. You mean her brother?
Oh, I do, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I
okay.
apologize. Yes.
Okay,
So,
great.
okay, yeah,
Thanks.
it's great progress. And the reason we hadn't had a quorum is because of, one of the gentlemen's been hit, fall, and got hurt, and so there you go. And we added a new, he still isn't in there, but we've added new, we filled, 90% of the board's been filled, and we have one more opening. So we had a quorum, and we had people, so there you go.
Should we reach out to see if there's anybody in the public who's interested in that one open position?
We've actually got several people we're interviewing for it. Thank you. Is that new business, Councilman Lappin? Sorry.
One thing with the tree commission was out of the clean energy grants, the Sustainability Commission had directed some money to the tree commission for tree planting. It was about $5,000 or something like that. So you might want to follow up with Jeff Flagg about that.
Thank you. Say that for me again.
There's about $5,000 from the clean energy, one of our, it was like we hit a certain amount of points and we got 3 grants. One of them was for, an electric car ostensibly. Another one was for electric, yard and clearing equipment.
Okay.
And then there was one of them that was directed towards the tree commission for planting trees.
Thank you. Thank you. We know, so was that it? I'm sorry, I didn't want to.
Oh, I have something else, but that's it for this topic. So
Gotcha.
if you want to finish your
Well,
thought.
sure, I just, with the tree, that grant that we had gotten about a year ago for $400,000, that is from the federal government, and that's currently on hold. And so we still have our budgeted, I think it's $60,000. We were thinking about 55 of it to be on there's a RFQ going out. And so I'll make sure that they didn't mention that in my last meeting, so I'll make sure that we had put that.
I didn't want to get missed. That's
Great, thank you. Go ahead, sir.
just one of the things with the DRI project is the South Street Pavilion, and I just wanted to read into the record a letter from Eric Unkoff. Eric writes, Pamela Reed contacted me last week about the South Street Pavilion. She had taken it upon herself to try to find someone who would take the pavilion down and move it, and had found no one willing to undertake the project. I would like to state that one of my companies would be willing to disassemble the entire pavilion and relocate it to the shirt factory to be reassembled into 3 or 4 structures, provided a suitable amount of time was allotted for the deconstruction, and some financial assistance was provided to offset the cost of man lift and telehandler rentals. If this were to happen, it would be a public relations win for the city and for Benicia. Pamela has been in contact with Jeff Flagg to help facilitate communication with Bonaccio. In addition, relocation would help to support future events at the Shirt Factory, which numbered 50 days of events that Eric was directly involved with last year, plus probably another 25 or smaller events organized by tenants for gallery openings, etc. These events are attended by locals as well as tourists. I would thus ask that since this will remain an asset in Warren County that would support tourism and existing events, that some amount of occupancy tax money be spent in assisting with a portion of the relocation costs. I can also mention that I have had no discussions with the farmers market. About 90 feet of the structure would be located on the southern edge of the Rock Hill Bakehouse parking lot. Another 36-foot section would be located on the southern edge of the loading dock parking lot of the Shirt Factory. These would serve initially to replace tents during Thursday market events for covered seating. I can see other existing events being reconfigured as well as new events being planned around the use of these structures. The remaining 54-foot section may be relocated on a parcel behind Glens Falls property to store snow removal equipment, or it may be used elsewhere on one of the properties. The goal is to reutilize the whole entire structure. PEMA has been coming around for years with this as we've tried to reuse the structure and materials from the structure as best we can. So I'm just saying, I think that this is a good thing for the city to try to follow. It's better to reuse than to throw away, and that's what I have for new business.
Do we own
No. But we did, there's a follow-up email that probably just didn't see that came just moments ago. Larry, or not Larry, but a representative from Bonaccio said that they have $5,000 they'd be willing to contribute to see if it would, if somebody does want to do the kinds of things that Mr. Unkoff is suggesting, then they'd be all for it, and they gave a date and stuff, so now they can work directly together and hopefully make it happen.
Is it imminent to go down?
Yeah, they want it down by April 30th.
Well, they originally wanted it down by October 31st.
Yeah.
Because we had entertained that to go out to the Krakow Preserve property.
Right. The city was going to use pot, but it was expensive.
It was expensive. Just to move it was just shy of $100,000. So, and that's why I didn't know if we still owned it.
No,
No, we don't.
no, but we've always been working with them, even after even when we spoke to you.
Right.
They really technically owned it, but they've always been willing to try to help in some way, but need to donate it some way. So it may have a resolution. It's fantastic. I agree. Better to reuse than to throw away.
I'll bring up one thing. And I've said this all along. I've mentioned to Jeff Flagg a couple of times. I think that we ought to say the sign off the front.
We've already got plans to take it. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll put it aside. Absolutely.
And the one that says, please, no dogs.
Please, no dogs. Is that all right?
I think it was like, don't do anything to please these dogs, they're just dogs.
Oh, my God.
We tried that for years at the Balloon Festival. And it didn't work.
Go ahead.
I was wondering if you thought that some of the occupancy tax you got could be used for this purpose.
Well, we certainly, the occupancy tax that we get every year for events, Eric already applies for and was a new awardee in the past year. The other money was to help with events, and we don't get it. It's you spend it and then you get it. It wasn't one of the listed events, but it doesn't seem like the county is overly concerned with, like, if one event didn't happen, that you use it for others, as long as you use it in the same way. The commitment that I had made to them was to grow events. It certainly does seem like that would fit in it. It would be a one-time, which is another thing that I had said to them, that this money was to help. I identified 4 events that I thought could be easily grown, but they weren't city events. And I said that it wasn't to continually be something that you would, let's say you gave $5,000 to an event, that you would be giving that $5,000 to them every year. The object was to help them grow and to be self-sustaining so that it wouldn't be ongoing past, I think I said, three or so years, right? If you help a company or a event grow, they grow, then they're self-sustaining and not continuing. That seemed to interest the supervisors. So in the fact that this would be a one-time thing, I certainly think that it should be considered, right? We hadn't gotten that far yet because we just got that contract really right as of the first of the year. But I do believe also there is some money from 2024 that, so this year was a new thing we've never gotten before. We got $20,000 without requesting it in June. And I don't believe, we were kind of trying to figure out, we had not spent that. We didn't want to send it back, and the county didn't want it back. So we might be able to even find a few thousand. The problem with that would be is backdating something to 2024. So I don't know that we can do that, but we find a way. We should find a way. It's a neat idea. I agree, and we'll try. But and also I think maybe we can even allocate it from 2024 money. The last time we checked with them, we had only spent money on the holiday venue. Also, there was another holiday. What was the Kiwanis? What do we call the Kiwanis? Spirit in the Trees, right? We used some. We committed to some of them for a better PA system this year. So we hadn't allocated a full 20,000, but the county, the last we checked with them, didn't want the remainder back. So I think as long as the council's okay, that you'll see that come across you, and I think we should be able to find a way. Certainly not too. One quote was $100,000 to move it,
Not
and $200,000
In
to
total, a little over $200,000.
right now. Bonacho said 5,000, but I bet you Eric, doing things a lot himself, could do things much cheaper. So I think that 5,000, and maybe we can find something similar, and I would bring it to you, and you you know, I think everybody's saying we'd rather not go to waste if possible. Fair enough? Thank you. All right. I wanted to highlight that on March 5th and 6th is the DRI updates. We had to, March 5th is at 7 p.m. It was scheduled for Heritage Hall, but we had to move it because the New York State the Glens Falls basketball sectionals is the same time, and we knew that nobody would walk into the Heritage Hall, so we moved it at the last second to Crandall Library. And then for those people who couldn't make it in the evening, we'd already scheduled a March 6th at 10 a.m. at Crandall Library. So both events will be, it's the same presentation, 2 different times to help people to get updated on where things are with the DRI, and wanted to let everybody, remind people of that if we could. And Jeremy Schneibel will come and visit us, I think, the first council meeting in March. He may be bringing Sarah Frankenfeld, or he may be bringing our own new GIS specialist, maybe both. They'll give us an update. They'll have the data in from last year's paving and sidewalks into that database that we have, and be talking about giving you what they think, but then asking you what streets and sidewalks. I'm hoping that they can tell us what of your requests in the past didn't get done, what requests, what they think, how many they think they can do. I asked them to bring what they think their priorities are, but then give it to you and let you guys, you'll have about a month to think about what streets you might want, and so we can get it out in an RFQ later in the spring.
Can we also get feedback from our Complete Streets Committee?
Absolutely, that it will go to them as well, and so in addition, okay? Absolutely.
It's exciting to think it's going to be warm enough to do paving.
It does. Yeah. Well, and you know, it's been a work in progress over 3 years for us to get ahead of this so that you have time to look and think about it. So I hope that also means that we're thinking spring. I also want to, even though I agree with everything said here about the concerns we've had, this is the first real winter we've had in my 3 years in office. And it was quite the challenge getting snow or ice, snow, ice. I know with me that I wished I had not shoveled in between. I did, thinking it was going to make it easier. And instead, I've now still got 2 inches of ice on nice, clean sidewalk, or what I hope that this weekend to get to taking at it with an ice pick to get at it.
Yeah, at the same time, we have all the problems acquiring salt to melt the stuff off.
Yes.
Because, you know, the DPW is going through it, and yeah, I think that now,
5-gallon pail.
yeah.
So yes, and remind you of that too, just so you know, we have a mixture, it's very little sand, but it's, very little salt. It's salt and sand mixture. Any resident in Glens Falls, we're asking you not to bring more than 2 5-gallon buckets at a time. But if you are a resident of Glens Falls, we've had it in the past and we'll have it in the future. You can drive up to DPW, there's a large sand pile, and you grab that and spread it throughout your walks. It's always been there, and we'll continue to have it there. We did get thank goodness, our salt things. I also want to have a special, if I can, again, I know this is challenging times. It's not to diminish any of our concerns, but I am so grateful that we as a council have worked forward to rebuild our building and codes department, and that you have in front of you a 4-page report of the hang tags that were handed out, and then a 96% response rate to that. Is it everything? No. Do we still have much more to do? Yes, but it's the first year that we've been able to address this in a meaningful way. And so I hope that it's taken with it. I just want to give them credit. 100 and something, 120, I think, in the last storm. It's progress, and I want to make sure that we recognize them. And that was all I had for new business. We now open up to public comment. Is there anybody from the community that would like to address the council? We ask you that you just give us your name and your address when you come.
I'm 32 Peter Bend.
Sean, come on right up and speak into the microphone so the folks in the home can hear you too.
I wanted to ask about suggestions. Saratoga has heated sidewalks. Is that a possibility? Maybe downtown Glens Falls could, the collaborative could like cover the cost of that? Because that'd be huge.
It's outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
I mean,
But there are
given
heated
the
sidewalks
ice.
in Glens Falls, just so you know.
There was?
In front of the old post office building, Peter Hoffman put them in his. And there are, and so I don't know that it's ever been a request of the 50/50 program, but we certainly try, but it certainly can be done. Remember that the replacement of the sidewalks in front of your property is the homeowner's responsibility, unless our tree in the public right of way does it, and then unfortunately the list has been too long. We cut down almost 43 positions in our DPW. We used to have 2 separate sidewalk crews every summer, and now we contract that out, Sean. And although we've done more than ever because our New York State highway chips, it's called, highway money is increased, and we're doing more than we've ever done. I think Bob's got the point there. Also, a similar thing with the electric. We've done porous sidewalks. If you go down, don't do it now because you won't see them well, but there are a series of sidewalks done before my term that were porous sidewalks, and they were put on Webster Avenue. And I think they were extremely successful as far as our green commitment and trying, but I know that neighbors were not a fan of them. So I think there's always pluses and minuses, but it's always worth looking at.
And I also have a weird property in Peter Bend where there is no sidewalks. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
And we try to look at that, and I think that conversation will come up. And when we meet, so please come to more as we have Jeremy come, because we have some sidewalks or some streets that don't have them, and I think we'd like to. Getting a group of neighbors to all agree to put them in has been a huge challenge. We've not seen it happen. The one street that I know in particular of was Graves, that they would not all approve. And we don't want to put a sidewalk in, no sidewalk in. We are putting in new sidewalk over by the high school as part of that initiative with the school. And we're put on the tip, our transportation improvement plan, Western Avenue. And that includes going to the folks that are, it's all of Western Avenue is the city of Glens Falls, up to the right of way. Then the property owners though are in the town of Queensbury. So John Strow and I and several other officials walked the street, and the months are going by, it might have been late December, early January. And they're gonna approach those Queensbury residents because we're gonna ask for the money to do the sidewalks and the streets along it like we did Webster Avenue, like we did Dix Avenue. The next question is getting the folks on. I have a friend of mine who just bought a house on Western Avenue. She's like, I love that I don't have a sidewalk to clean. So I'm hoping that she is kind to the folks from Queensbury that go to her.
Well, to say you did a great job with Dix Avenue sidewalks. Those are amazing.
Thank you.
But in order to cut down costs, you could just do heated sidewalks around the traffic circle because, especially in front of the Mexican restaurant, really bad. Like I'm a part of the Glens Falls Run Club, and it's always a slippery slope just to get past that point. So maybe just do a little bit, a little bit of heated sidewalks.
Thank you.
But thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, do we have anybody online with any questions? Does anybody have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Good. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.